Hello and welcome back to the first Paradise Preview podcast of 2013. This is Season 2, Episode 18, as we look ahead to Celtic's game against Hearts. And today I'm joined by Graham Wilson from Beyond the Waves.
Hello, Josh.
So, game against Hearts, we'll face them 2 times already this season. First of all, a 1-0 win at Celtic Park, where George Osama scored a goal, and then a 4-0 demolition away to Tynecastle. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, Josh. And we're coming back from the winter break, getting our batteries recharged, maybe getting some rest. Obviously, there's been a lot of football being played over the fall and the early going of the season. So this is a well-timed break for many of our players. We have a new signing coming in just today, Tam Rajic from the G'day League, Australia, and by all accounts, he is a talent right now, not really even so much a project player, being highly touted by many Premiership clubs. So it's going to be really fascinating to see how Neil Lennon gets him into the side. Now, I think, especially given the fact that he's in mid-season form, he could really step in at any moment and have an impact. And it's just the type of player that we've been missing. But getting back to our opponent this weekend, Hearts. I mean, obviously they're always going to be a tough opponent for us. Like you mentioned, the 1-0, very close victory at home, and that's really been the tale of the first half of the season. Some nervy moments at home, but when we got away and went to Tynecastle, we absolutely dismantled them, and hopefully we can continue that on. This Hearts team doesn't have a lot of firepower. I mean, they're really only averaging less than a goal a game, and they're conceding far more than that, and that is indicative of their ninth place standing at the moment in the SPL table. Their leading scorer, Sutton, with 4 goals. They just don't have firepower that they can draw on at any given time. We need to maximize our ability to shut them down, keep a clean sheet, and then open up opportunities for our forwards.
Yeah, exactly. The previous 2 games against Hearts have been really tough, and so far this season domestically in SPL at Celtic Park, it has been really tough. Because a lot of the Scottish sides have came quite confident that they can, cause us problems and, get a draw or win, which has happened several times this season. But we've won 2 of the last 3 games. We've scored 3, conceded 1. The game we lost was against Hibernian away. Lee Griffiths scored the goal there. Hearts, however, their season isn't going so well. They've only, in the last 3 games, they've won 1, lost 1, and drew 1, scoring 2 and conceding 2, which isn't a very impressive record so far for them this season. Find themselves 9th in the table, only 5 points above Ross County, who are in 11th.
And, an important point to bring up as well, Josh, they only have 1 win away from Tynecastle this season so far. I mean, that really tells you something, and that really tells us that the opportunity is there for us. Their lone away win was a 3-0 at Tannadice, which obviously against Dundee United. They had some injury issues in the beginning of the season. This was way back in September. So certainly the opportunity is there for a rested Celtic side to come back, batteries charged, get their minds refreshed, and come out and really have an explosive performance and really set a standard for the home performances in the sort of business end, I hate that cliche, of the season, and sort of reinvigorate our home form.
Yeah, it's real good that we've got a break, and we've got some players coming back as well, especially Anthony Stokes, who could be really crucial for the next, for the second half of the season, finding out that Miku hasn't really settled in, and our other signing, Lassad, has been promising, but not really banging in the goals every single week, so I'm looking forward to a potential return of Anthony Stokes, potential against Hearts. He played a little bit against in a friendly against Stella Bucharest. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, I just say Stoya. I've heard it pronounced several different names, but yeah, Stokesy got a nice run out there for about 20 minutes. Looked, his usual self, a bit of a creative spark that we've really been missing. That's a great point that you bring up, Josh. we've been missing that in terms of our own firepower for the first half of the season, not just from the standpoint of the goals that Stokesy would provide, but also how he sort of does a lot of that table setting and a lot of the link up with Gary Hooper. Gary Hooper has been able to bang in the goals, but he just doesn't have the same number of opportunities, especially against SPL opponents, especially when we're looking to unlock packed defenses. And I think that his return is going to be absolutely vital for us. You mentioned Mikko. I mean, Neil Lennon has come out during this winter break and said, Miku, they're going to stick with him. There's no reason that they're going to send him back before the end of the season. But it's just the case of how many chances are they going to give him. He highlighted the fact that time really is running out for him in a very real, sort of literal and figurative way. The analogy transfers to how much longer are we even going to give him a look for the starting 11? You mentioned Lasad. He's done what I would consider quite well coming in and adjusting to the Scottish game. Hasn't really been a prolific goal scorer, but has done a lot of the good hard work down the flanks. And I think that he has an important role to play going forward. Another player that's coming back from injury, and hopefully we can keep him fit because he's absolutely vital, in my opinion, is Joe Ledley. It came out that he has a similar injury to Scott Brown, but sort of like a groin slash pelvic injury that doesn't quite require surgery, but it was good to have this break to be able to rest him and get him back to full fitness. And fingers crossed he can maintain that throughout our Champions League campaign and as we chase the treble. Now, Kelvin Wilson suspended for two games. F.A. Ambrose is out in the African Cup of Nations at the moment. So we sort of have a patchwork central defense, and that can be a worry. What are your thoughts there, Josh?
Well, we recently signed Gershon from Standard Liège, and I was thinking about maybe him going with Mulgrew in the central defence, but the problem is the two of them are very heavy left-footed players, and I'm not sure if they could go together well in the defence because Mulgrew isn't really a natural centre back, and Gershon isn't a 100% fully natural centre back, and he's just brought into the team. So playing the two of them together right now would maybe be a little bit dodgy. So I could maybe see Ronja coming in instead, even though he didn't have a fantastic game against Stella Bucharest.
Yeah, I don't think we have much of a choice.
The only way you can really get around that is if Lennon goes with a 3-5-2 again. He goes with Ronja, Gershon, and Mulgrew at the back, or perhaps drops Victor Wanyama back with Mulgrew and Gershon or something like that. I'm not sure what Neil Lennon will do. He has really stuck with the 3-5-2 quite a lot this season. Played it in the friendly for maybe the first 60 minutes, I think. But it didn't really prove to be that effective. And then when we moved to a 4-4-2, that seemed to be a bit more solid defensively and moving forward than the 3-5-2.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's experimented over the last several weeks, and I've made this point sort of repetitively that I think this is preparation for Juventus. Not really even so much for the three at the back, but experimenting with three up top. We've seen consistently Samras, Lasad, and Hooper starting up top, or some sort of confirmation or consummation thereof, in order to match up with the back three that we're expecting to see from Juventus. And I think that we may start to see a migration away from the three at the back. I mean, we saw it against Hibs in the first 10 minutes. It was absolutely atrocious, and we had to abandon it quite quickly. It just doesn't seem to be catching on a very consistent basis as something that we can rely on. It puts a lot of pressure on the wing backs. Not to say that Lustig and Matthews, or even Ezagiri as his form has come on, are not up to it, but it just leaves us far too exposed from a communication and from a link-up standpoint. So I would think, the 4-3-3, obviously that puts a lot of pressure on the midfield, but given the aptitude and the quality of player that we have in somebody like Victor Wanyama, I think that's fully acceptable, and that's a very versatile sort of formation. So I wouldn't be surprised if we try and stick with a hybrid 4-3-3, depending on when we have the ball and when we're in defense. Obviously it can shift into a couple of different consummations.
We started with a 4-3-3 against Motherwell. We won that 1-0. It looked okay on the attack, but defensively, it did allow Motherwell to counter attack here and there. I think he'll probably go for the same again for one reason. In the two games against Hearts so far this season, basically all of our goals have came or been created from wide positions.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that the lack of a creative midfielder, which is going to be addressed by Tam Rajek, and it's going to be interesting to see how quickly he's going to move into the side. That can completely change everything. But without that creative attacking midfield player, with the absence of Key, and I'm not so sure how much Key really contributed to that. I mean, it'd be a useful analysis and quite interesting. But you're right. A lot of our attack has come down the flanks, and when we don't have that width, and when we don't have that endeavor going down the touchline, it seems as though our attack is quite anemic because we don't have the answers going through the middle.
Yeah. So I think going into this game, I think he'll probably play a 4-3-3, which will allow him to put Samaras high out the pitch and play, wide on the left, and then perhaps he could put Commons on the right, a more advanced role, and allow him to cut inside or play those long balls into the box, or he could go with a 4-2-1-2 and play Commons and behind the two strikers. Allow them to have a free roll and get those balls in from wide areas, and allow the fullbacks to push up as well, and get some 1-2s with him, Izagiri and probably Matthews, because I think that's going to be essential, because basically the Hearts defence, the Hearts back four isn't very good, but they do have a solid, hard working midfield, so sometimes it can be hard to break them through the middle.
Yeah, no question about it. I think that's a great point there. Modified almost even like a 4-2-3-1, maybe with Commons providing the link up, like you said, for some of those advancing runs, and especially Samaras up high on the left. He's going to have space to run into. We're playing in Celtic Park. I don't think that we exploit that quite enough. The out ball to Samaras, and I think that's going to be absolutely vital. I mean, especially looking at the Champions League. I mean, how could you not? But it really starts here. And Josh, what are your thoughts in terms of the starting 11? I mean, we've hinted at it so far. Let's start from the back. Give us your projected starting 11, and then we'll get into a scoreline prediction.
So at the back, I choose a back four: Matthews, Rongnier, Mulgrew, and Izagiri. First on goals, obviously. In midfield, I quite like the idea of our 4-2-3-1 formation. So the two holding positions, probably Wanyama and Brown, I think you'd pick, because they two played in the friendly. So Wanyama and Brown and the two kind of holding positions. Then in the kind of attacking four, Samaras on the left, Commons just behind Gary Hooper, and on the right, probably Lassad.
Okay, and this is a tough one because we really need to fit players into the formation. I would agree completely with your back four. Obviously, Forster in goals, but Joe Ledley coming back, I would probably put him in next to Wanyama in more of a holding role, and then we have to sort of look at how can we adapt. I'm not sure Lassad fits quite into the side at the moment, especially with Stokes coming back. Not so much that Stokes is going to be in the starting 11, but we have to look at the way that we're going to go out and the way that we're going to play. I think Scott Brown is undroppable at this point, so I would expect him to play more on the right-hand side and maybe facilitate the coming on of James Forrest for one of the front three, the attacking three, and maybe even like a Christmas tree. But Brown, Wanyama, Ledley in the midfield, Commons, Samaras, and Hooper. Obviously as the tip of the spear, that can obviously morph into like a 4-3-1-2 where Commons can do a lot of that hard work linking up through the middle, and he can even stay out wide right and deliver some service into the box as well. So that's sort of my starting 11, my thoughts. But obviously, as we know, with signings coming in and so many players coming back fit at the moment, it's really hard to judge. But we'll have to see. In terms of scoreline, what's your thoughts there?
Well, I'd like to see us kind of kick off our home form with a bit of a bang. But Hearts, they've had 15 shots on target in our 2 games against them this season. So, but managed to keep a clean sheet in both of the games. So I'm going to say Hearts probably will get a goal this time. So I'm predicting a 2-1.
Yeah, I'm having the same thoughts as well, especially with some questions at the back for us, specifically in the central defense. Like you said, I mean, before going into this winter break, we had a run of clean sheets out with that Hibs tie. So that was with different personnel back there. I mean, obviously, like you said, Thomas Rania has not looked the best when he's come in. Speaking specifically about that Hibs tie, and I think we're going to have to rely on him over the next couple of games, and we're really just going to have to ride this out. Hopefully he can play his way back into form, back into fitness, and regain his confidence. But I agree with you. I can't see a situation where we're going to keep a clean sheet. I mean, that's what we're hoping for, but we have to just be ready for the fact that we're going to give up a goal. But I see a 3-1. I think there's a lot of firepower in this side that really hasn't come out for whatever reason, and I think that it's ready to do just that. James Forrest coming back from injury, Anthony Stokes coming back from injury. These are key players. These have been key players for us in years past, and then especially over the fall. And without them, I think we're a completely different team. With them, obviously, on the flip side, the sky's the limit. So 3-1 for me.
Okay, good stuff. So this has been another episode of Paradise Preview, and we'll see you next time.